Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. So with 2022 done and out the way in terms of GT7 content, we're kind of rounding up the year with some lists, some top fives and such, and that started off yesterday with my personal top five best cars from GT7 in terms of post-launch support, and the winner ended up being the Suzuki A6GCS Pikes Peak. However, what about the opposite? What are the five most disappointing post-release cars, so DLC cars, whatever you want to call them? Now this is going to be probably a bit more controversial than the kind of my favorite ones, so it'll be interesting to see what you guys think. It doesn't necessarily mean they are bad cars, but there can be like differing factors into kind of what makes them, you know, weaker than the rest of the cars that came in the update. So let's get it started. We'll start off with number 5, so let's go and see what it is. So in 5th place for me has to be the Suzuki VGT. Now, I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad car. In fact, in terms of its handling and the way it performs, it's really not that bad. In fact, it's probably one of the more drivable VGTs. However, the problem lies that it is severely underpowered when you kind of think of VGT cars. Now don't get me wrong, not every VGT is absolutely a rocket or some kind of monster, which most of them are. You know, stuff like the kind of Daihatsu Copen and that are just really kind of just more standard cars than anything. But this one, it kind of just sits in this weird middle ground where I could see it being a very decent sports car, but the fact that it's kind of classified as a VGT for me really kind of knocks it down a few levels. If you take it into what you're seeing here, the VGT event, yeah, it's just severely underpowered. Even the AI version will just sit around at the back by an absolute margin. In all honesty, I don't think it's a very, very good car in terms of the category that it's in. And I think for the first proper post-release VGT, it was just a little bit disappointing. Now, one thing I do like about the car, in all honesty, is the fact I could actually probably see this being a real car. It genuinely keeps the Suzuki styling. It's very kind of, you know, level with its kind of approach to styling and such. It's nothing too crazy and out there. It just kind of keeps the typical Suzuki styling, but then kind of like sort of squishes it a bit and stretches it out to this kind of two-seater sports car. So it's definitely more grounded in reality than some of the VGTs, but again, just being so underpowered and not really finding its feet in the VGT class really kind of just lets it down overall. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad car. I just think for the first post-release VGT for GT7, it was probably just a little bit on the disappointing side, and I still kind of feel that way now. So that's number 5. Up in 4th place, I'm sadly going to have to go with the 1954 Maserati A6GCS-53 Spyder. Now, this is a bit of a tough one for me to really put on the list because driving this thing, I genuinely really like it. It's not a bad car by any means. In fact, it's a pretty cool looking classic car, but a few things does let it down. So first of all, I'm just going to say it, price point, 2.9 million this car cost me, and I don't really see that being a decent price for really what you're getting. You can get Group C machinery for less price, and they are a lot faster, a lot more usable. Yes, you're kind of paying for its stunning looks, which, don't get me wrong, it's a very beautiful machine, but again, performance-wise, I just don't see it really being worth it. It's more of a, you know, a kind of garage queen. Now, another thing that kind of lets it down is usability. There's nowhere to really use this car in terms of the events we have in the game, so for me that just knocks it down a few points. It's nothing against the car, you know, that can't really be helped, but if they're kind of adding these cars in, you'd think Polyphony have had, you know, at least a few decent events that you can use it in. So in all honesty, they're its main downsides, and again, I feel like it's just kind of a forgotten car. It appeared, everybody was kind of like, wow, that's pretty awesome, you know, a classic, you know, proper sports car, and then it kind of just disappeared from memory as soon as the kind of update came. Now this one came in update 1.19, and I feel like just since then it's been almost forgotten about. I mean, literally within the first week of this car getting released, I don't think I've ever seen anyone use it in any of my lobbies or really talk about this car. It's almost kind of the forgotten update car where most people have just kind of forgotten about it, and some may have not even bought it, and I can kind of see why it's justified with that kind of lack of usability, lack of performance, and a relatively high price tag. Don't get me wrong, it's a stunning machine though. So let's get on to number 3. Now, again, I feel like this might be a bit of a controversial one, but the Ford Roadster, what can I say in all honesty? It's a really cool car. And whenever I see it, it just reminds me of games like Burnout 2 with the hot rod, and even Crash Bandicoot 3 when you kind of used to do the motorbike levels and the hot rods would be there. You know, anything kind of classic car related from this time period, it's a typical hot rod looking machine. It's really awesome and it's a genuine classic, and I think it does deserve to be in the game. However, I just don't think it really sits in a fair place. It's so off of the pace of everything else that you kind of race it with, and there's nothing else to really compare it with, that it just sits in this weird awkward place in Gran Turismo 7's car roster that you don't really know what to do with it. Don't get me wrong, when upgraded you can get some cool little hot rod build with the Roadster, but in all honesty I just in general don't really see it being used that much by many people. Again, I feel like it's just more of a garage queen, something you might whip out maybe now and again in some community lobbies just for fun, but in terms of performance or really usability, you're probably not going to be overusing it at all, if in fact really ever. I don't think I've used mine up until getting the footage for this video since those original updates, and I have 2 of these things. So in terms of the update, this one came in, it was update 1.17. I believe it came around when Watkins Glen came in the game, and I believe the Suzuki A6GCS Pax Peak, which was obviously my favourite kind of post-release or post-launch DLC car. Sadly, this one kind of just falls at the other end. And again, it's not really down to the game itself. It's more lack of competition for it and really lack of events. In terms of price point, I don't think it's that bad, but again, look, it's just kind of a, you know, going to end up being a garage queen for most of us. Let me know if you've ever really done anything kind of spectacular with this car. Me personally, I haven't. So now you might be thinking, wait a minute, this isn't a DLC car. It actually is. So this is the Subaru BRZ S 2021 model. This came in the first selection of kind of post-launch cars alongside the GT300 version, which was an absolutely awesome car. It only just narrowly missed out on coming on my top 5 list. But yeah, sadly, the road-going version to me is just an absolute disappointment. And it's mainly because it's what I like to call a filler car. You know, it's already got the Toyota model in the game, and the fact that this comes post-launch in the first kind of selection of cars, it's nothing to really get excited about. You know, you think they try and get the hype back after all the controversy at the start of the game, and then they kind of just put this in there, and it just feels like filler. You know, it doesn't really feel like it deserves a place. It just feels like it's kind of just padding out the numbers, especially when you've got the exact same Toyota model already in the game from release. Don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean I absolutely hate the car, because far from it. In all honesty, for me, it's a very good beginner's car to get to grips with kind of how the game feels, how it works. You know, it's a good tuning platform, it's cheap, it's a decent little car to drive, but in my opinion, it's a worse offender than kind of having, you know, 2 of the same kind of generation Sylvia, which we got a little bit later on, mainly because at least they, you know, look pretty different, whereas this is just a carbon copy with a different badge on it and it's thrown in. So in all honesty, it's just a disappointment mainly for that. I really don't understand clone cars. You know, yes, okay, there's probably Subaru fanboys out there that are absolutely happy this came in, as well as a Toyota, and wouldn't have just been happy with one version. But in all honesty, again, it's just a filler car. It's a clone car. It was already kind of in the game. They've probably just gone and swapped the badges over. So yeah, that's kind of what puts it so low, even though overall it's a very decent package, very tunable, and you can make some awesome fun little builds. So let's get into the worst one of the bunch. Yep, you probably guessed this one because I had an absolute hatred for it before it even got in the game, and that's mainly because, well, Porsche kind of slipped up and revealed it, and then when the update came, it turns out that we was only getting 3 cars, and one of them was this, that had already been revealed around about 2 weeks before it even, you know, the update dropped. So yeah, it just kind of made it even more disappointing. I think it doesn't help that it came in an update where 2 of the 3 cars were actually EV machines, apart from the Sylvia, which again, you know, a lot of people were like, you know, pretty excited about making that kind of the standout car of the pack, or update, should I say, whatever you want to call it. It came around the same update as the Volkswagen IDR, which in my opinion was actually very cool, but this one was just absolutely terrible, again because it's a bit of a clone car. It's just essentially the Porsche VGT with its roof chopped off and a different kind of, you know, race suit and such, which, don't get me wrong, is pretty cool. It kind of, you know, does kind of scream sort of updated classic, but at the same time it doesn't. It's just kind of a little bit uninspired in my opinion, and I feel like just the disappointment of seeing this drop, I've never ever forgiven it for that. Look, it's not the car's fault. Overall, it's an okay car, and in fact I really did enjoy it when there was the glitch there that you could put dirt tires on this thing and take it rally racing. It was actually hilarious. But then again, since then, Polyphony's just patched that out, and now we can't do that. So that's kind of the fun factor with this car, over and done with. Do I think I'll ever touch it again after this video? Probably not. I still absolutely despise it just for being a very uninspired machine. I personally think the standard VGT looks better. Again, it's still pretty boring because it's an EV, and I think most people just kind of don't like the EV side of the VGTs. I think we just need a bit more, you know, if you're going to go technological and all that, just go absolutely crazy with it, you know, forget about emissions and stuff. So yes, that is the worst post-launch DLC car for me of 2022. So there we have it. That is my list. Let me know your personal list. Which 5 cars did you not like this year from the post-launch updates of GT7? In all honesty, it doesn't mean that I absolutely hate these cars. I'll probably, you know, some of them I'll still use, but a lot of them are kind of let down by lack of competition or lack of events. That just means that, you know, post-launch, they've kind of just faded from memory. In fact, most people have probably forgotten the likes of the Ford Roadster even came in the game, or the Maserati. You know, even though they're absolutely stunning and really cool classic cars, it's just kind of a bit of a disappointment that in 2022 at least we've had nowhere to use them. So there we have it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn those notifications on so you don't miss an upload from myself. I upload each and every day. Thank you so much for your support recently. It's been absolutely amazing. Discord, Twitter, donation link, that's all in the description down below, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.